Hi, everyone. Welcome to SBR Sports Picks. Hashtag SBR, Ask SBR. Sorry, hashtag Ask SBR. My name is Pete Loshak. Today is Friday, February 10th, and we've got UFC 208 coming up. We're going to preview this right now with professional MMA analyst Andreas Hale, who's done a bunch of videos with us for a while now. Always gives great advice, usually profitable advice. Andreas Hale, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just get right into it. First, let's start with the main event, Randamie and Holm, and finally we have a title fight in women's MMA without a huge favorite that shouldn't be a favorite, and obvious betting value on the underdog. Super competitive lines here, right? Randamie, the small favorite at -125. Holm on the other side, +105. Both of them basically strikers, and so obviously this is basically going to be a kickboxing fight, right? It's not going to go on the ground. Neither one of them wants to go to the floor. I have my opinions on it. I'll see if you agree with them. But first, let's take get your opinion. Is there one fighter here who should actually be a significant favorite, or do you think that the odds are that it's basically a coin flip, which is what the market is saying it is right now?
The line is pretty much right. I mean, I'm not even mad at the Randamie being the favorite. Her pro kickboxing career as a Dutch kickboxer was perfect. She's only had trouble with people that can take her down or grapple or do things that are outside the realm of kickboxing. So if Holm's going to engage in a kickboxing match with her, the line should be even. I mean, they're both exceptional strikers. So I'm not surprised where this line is at.
Right. See, I agree with everything you just said, except that because of what you just said, because of those factors, I would actually make Randamie a pretty significant favorite here. I don't know how high I would go up, maybe -180 or something like that. But obviously, Holm has lost twice in a row. She's great, but she doesn't. I mean, Randamie's a big weakness is being taken to the floor, which is not going to happen here. Randamie, as you said, great Muay Thai and everything in Europe. So I'm thinking that I would actually at -125, I would bet to Randamie.
No, I definitely would bet the Randamie. Here's the thing. If you go through Holm's UFC career, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a highlight outside of the Ronda Rousey fight. All of her fights have been relatively close. She's an extremely patient striker to a fault. Her fights with Rocky Pennington were really close, losing to Miesha Tate. And losing to Valentina Shevchenko, who was also an exceptional kickboxer, shows that Holm has a hard time dealing with other kickboxers. She really hasn't learned how to outpoint people. So the Randamie at this point, I would take her as a heavy favorite. I'm a little surprised by this, but I think the air of knocking out Ronda Rousey is still wearing out a lot of people, and that's what's moving this line, the name recognition. People just don't know who the Randamie is, and I think they're going to learn on at UFC 208.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, de Randamie has kind of like longer. Wait, sorry, what was I say? Oh, what I was going to say was that. What's your take on the total then? Because it's 4.5 rounds and slightly juiced to the over at -130. And I'm reading a lot of people whose opinions I sort of respect, who are seeing de Randamie winning by decision. I'm not so sure though. I'm not sure that this is. I mean, 4.5 rounds, considering how dangerous both of these women can be. Seems like a lot of rounds to me. I would actually lean under, and I'm thinking maybe de Randamie inside the distance, which is about like +230 or so.
I mean, I would take a shot at it. Again, Holm is extremely patient. She's a counter striker by nature. I mean, especially in her boxing career, she was the same way. So she's going to be cautious in this fight, which could lead to one of two things. She's going to get outpointed, or it could lead to her demise, depending on how aggressive de Randamie is. So I like de Randamie, especially as a finisher. Holm hasn't been finished outside the Miesha Tate fight, which she was choked out. But I would go ahead and take a shot at it. It's at what is it, +230? It's worth the risk. 5 rounds is a long time to go for both of these women without hurting one another. So somebody I think is going to get hurt. I still think de Randamie is going to win a decision. I think Holm is a little bit too patient, but if she presses the action, I think a finish could be in store here.
Yeah, I mean, Holly does have she has a proven chin and proven cardio, so it makes me a little. I'm just thinking the 4.5 rounds is so many rounds. What would you? So you would prefer as far as betting value? We're both in agreement that we like de Randamie here, but you think there's more value in de Randamie at -125 than taking her inside the distance at like +230 or something.
Yeah, I would take that. I think there's value there. I mean, like I said, this may go the distance, but 5 rounds is a really long time. And Holly, it just takes one mistake to get knocked out by de Randamie, who has proven to be a finisher. That's the other thing. A lot of people forget that she is a finisher in fights. She's only lost recently to Amanda Nunes, and there's no shame in that. So if Holm is going to choose to strike with her, there's a possibility that she can get finished within those 4.5 rounds.
Yeah, maybe I'll take it like half and half, so that if your enemy wins by decision, I win her, but then I lose the inside the distance prop and basically break even. All right, now let's move on to the Anderson Silva fight. Now I don't know, man. I've had this way of betting Anderson Silva fights ever since his quote unquote skills went into decline about 7 years ago or so. Basically, just taking overs in Anderson Silva fights against Cormier. I thought the over was a great fight, also going the distance. And here, I'll admit, I bet it again. I bet this one already against Derek Brunson over just 1.5 rounds, minus 135. You know that obviously Brunson off a loss, so he's probably going to be a little bit cautious. Silva, as we've seen, as he's gotten older, has become a little bit more and more, calculated. If you don't want to use a word with maybe negative connotations, is cautious. Over 1.5 rounds, minus 135. I don't know who's going to win this one, but the over seems like a great bet. Would you disagree with that?
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, granted, Anderson Silva hasn't won a fight as a middleweight since Chael Sonnen almost 5 years ago. So, but Derek Brunson is not a top tier fighter like the rest of the people that Silva's fought, the Cormiers and the Chris Weidman. So he's a little bit more patient, and he hasn't finished guys like he's used to. So if he was to finish Brunson, I would expect it to become a little bit later than a round and a half. So the over seems like the obvious bet here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe going the distance as well, but I could see even if it's like a late second round finish, you still cash the over at 1.5. And then, so that would be my pick on this one. But yeah, Silva is a small underdog here. Brunson minus 145, Silva plus 125. As you said, it's been a while since Silva has won. But again, he knows how to, historically, he knows how to deal with people with Brunson's skill set. So the question is just, does he still have the talent to make him a good bet at plus 125? What's your take?
It's so tough. It's so tough, and it's hard for me to bet against Anderson Silva against a middleweight is what I would call Brunson. He was on a nice little roll here, and he fooled people into thinking that he was a knockout artist, and he ran into Robert Whittaker and got knocked out. So the chin is a little suspect, and it's there for Anderson Silva to take. But can he take it at 41 years old? That is the question. I'm going to err on the side of yes, and I'm going to pick Anderson Silva in this fight because I can't just go against what my eyes see, which is that incredible skill set. Brunson's going to have to take him down and ground him. If he chooses to stand with him, he's going to get knocked out. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Anderson Silva here.
All right, so your take on Anderson Silva is that his skills are still, he's maintained his skills enough to make him worth a bet as an underdog. As far as the size is concerned, it's a pass for me, but I'm definitely all over the over, and I already bet it. All right, now we got 3 other interesting fights on the main card: Miller and Dustin Poirier, and then a really interesting one, Glover Teixeira against Jared Cannonier. That might be the most interesting one. Cannonier, of course, a little bit of an unknown entity, and Teixeira a very well-known entity, but sort of in the decline of his career, minus 220 right now. Cannonier at plus 180. I think I would take a shot with Cannonier at plus 180, and if Teixeira, finishes him or whatever, just write off the loss and think that it was a decent risk at a big underdog line. I'm thinking about taking Cannonier at plus 180. What do you think?
I'll have to go opposite of you. I like Glover in this fight, and the reason why is the ground game. Glover has an exceptional ground game. I don't think he's going to stand there and trade. I mean, Glover Teixeira got knocked out by Anthony Johnson, but who hasn't been knocked out by Anthony Johnson? I can't really put too much stock into that. Glover has heavy hands. He proved that by knocking out Rashad Evans inside of a round. So Cannonier could take a punch, though, and that's the thing. So I don't think Glover's going to stand there and trade with it. I think he's going to play it smart, try to push him up against the cage and take him down and choke him out. For that reason, I'm going to have to pick Glover Teixeira. But you are right. There may be some skills on the decline here that gives Cannonier a slight little advantage there, but I just can't go against my gut of picking Glover Teixeira in this fight.
Yeah, and the under on this one is, the over on this one is also very low, over 1.5 rounds, minus 115. Like you said, Cannonier can take a punch. So, maybe this one is another one where a shot with the over on the very low total and a very modest price on 1.5 rounds is worth a shot. Or do you see an early exit here for one of these guys?
I'm doubtful on the early exit. I'd be surprised if one of these two got each other out quick. I think they're both going to be a little cautious with one another, and I think this will go over.
Yeah. All right, and then we got 2 huge favorites. Dustin Poirier currently I'm seeing minus 470, and then Jacare Souza minus 550. I don't know if either of those are bettable. Is it possible that Souza will overlook Tim Boetsch? Maybe not. I mean, you got to figure that he's not going to screw up his career like that, but it's certainly possible. At minus 550, is Souza just worth a shot, maybe inside the distance, or is that fight unbettable?
Man, Jacare doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but Tim Boetsch still has heavy hands, and he's proven to finish guys in the past. And at that line, as wide as it is, I would just take a shot in the dark on Tim Boetsch. I mean, it's worth, throwing down a little bit of money just in case. Anything can happen. You got a big middleweight with power in Tim Boetsch. So I don't expect him to win, But at that line, I'm going to have to take a crack at it.
Yeah, that's one of those tough fights where it's just like that the big favorite should be a big favorite, and it's just how big exactly of a favorite should he be. All right, nice breakdown, Andreas Hale. Let's give our overall picks for the main card. I've got a bunch here. I'll give mine first. I'll take de Randamie at -125. I'm going to stay away from any props there or a shot with the total. Definitely, I'm going to be on Anderson Silva and Derek Brunson over 1.5 rounds -135. Definitely, I'm going to be on over 1.5 rounds in Cannonier and Teixeira at -115. And I'm going to add on a fourth pick, Cannonier at +180, just because at that big of a line, I think it's worth a shot. So those are 4 picks I just gave. Andreas Hale, what picks would you recommend from the main card of UFC 208?
Look, I'm going to agree with you on everything except for Cannonier. Everything but Cannonier, but everything that you just said, right in line with my thinking, especially the de Randamie pick. That is my biggest pick here. I'm just really surprised at that line. I understand why it's where it's at, but I think de Randamie is too good to pass up at that value.
All right, so we're officially going head-to-head. Are you making Glover Teixeira at -220 an official pick of yours, which would put us officially head-to-head?
Yes, I am. I'm going to have to pick Teixeira. I like him a little bit too much here.
We shall see. And again, this one, if it was like, if Teixeira was like -160 or something, I wouldn't take a shot with it. But I just think that Cannonier is sort of, obviously on the maybe headed into the prime of his career, even though he's 32. He hasn't fought that much. He only started fighting in like 2011 professionally. And Teixeira appears like he's on his way down. So in general, I like to bet underdogs when they're on their way up against a favorite who's on his way down. Would you generally agree with that or not really?
No, I generally would agree with that. It's just I think, a lot of stock's been taken into Teixeira getting knocked out by Johnson. I think he's still got a lot left against guys on the come-up like Cannonier, so he could be proven to be a great gatekeeper at this point for the light heavyweight division.
All right, Andreas Hale, love breaking down this stuff with you. We are in agreement on most of our picks, except for head-to-head with Cannonier and Teixeira. Andreas Hale, thanks so much. Talk to you again very soon.
All right, thank you.